So for those of you who are new to this conference, one tradition, which I keep trying to eliminate but keeps creeping back in every year, is to begin this plenary with just a recap of the State of Pro Bono. And I will certainly do that. This always comes fairly soon after that other state of address. And while I couldn't presume to be anywhere near as moving or articulate as Barack Obama, I can promise you I will be briefer, which is for me quite unusual. So in some ways, this year feels like an echo of last year, and that is for pro bono and for the access to justice world. It is, once again, 2012 was the best of times and the worst of times. So one of the things people are most interested in, and unfortunately because of the timing of this conference and when we receive information and data from all of you on your pro bono performance in 2012, pursuant to our law firm and corporate challenges, I cannot tell you anything about the data. And as somebody who has become increasingly data-driven over the years, I'm not even going to try to give you an impressionistic response. What I will say is that with respect to law firm pro bono, what we are seeing is that the commitment, visibility, and infrastructure of pro bono within larger law firms continues and remains very strong despite profound changes in law firm practice and economics. For legal departments, the astonishing momentum in the growth of in-house pro bono, something that really barely existed 10 years ago, continues at a breakneck pace. It's exciting and a little bit exhausting to be part of that effort. It's just absolutely wonderful. And two things I would just mention briefly about the in-house pro bono effort. The first is that this is not a passing fad or a flash in the pan. There is so much energy and drive and passion behind this movement. And just to give you one example, one of the things that we are working on through our corporate pro bono project with the Association of Corporate Counsel is changing rules, state rules, that limit the ability of certain categories of in-house lawyers to undertake pro bono work or make pro bono work and the process for taking it on so cumbersome that it really is almost insulting and certainly creates an obstacle to participation. We went to the Conference of Chief Justices, the state Supreme Court justices, and proposed a resolution which they adopted, urging the elimination of these unnecessary obstacles and these outmoded rules. They were very responsive. We're seeing incredible progress in this area, but I think most indicative of sort of where things stand with in-house lawyers is what helped us, I think, in that effort, in addition to the leadership of a number of chief justices who were very, very supportive in this area, was the fact that we brought with us a letter signed by 339 chief legal officers of companies, of general counsel. And what that letter basically was a plea. Please let us help people for free who can't access lawyers. That's pretty remarkable. The second thing that we're seeing in the in-house movement is maturation. Initially, most of our work with legal departments was with startups. We're now certainly continuing to do that because there are lots and lots of legal departments, and we're trying to reach as many of them as we can. But what's really fascinating is the increasing sophistication of the work that legal departments are doing, and the increasing maturity of their programs as they grow and flower, become more ambitious, become more integrated within the company as a whole. For legal services programs, sadly, the situation is very similar to what it was last year, especially in terms of funding, resource cutbacks, office closings, and the like. even more so. But I will also say that what we see in that part of our profession is an extraordinary tenacity and courage, and as well a commitment to figuring out how to serve as many clients as well as possible in this environment where public funding and other sources of funding have diminished. So we're definitely seeing hardship, but we're also seeing creativity and innovation, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Usually I talk about legal services, law firms, and legal departments, but one of the other things that's happening is new champions and partners in access to justice and pro bono. Most notably among them, a group I just mentioned, and that is the judiciary, both state and federal judiciary at all levels. Their recognition that keeping the courthouse doors open, but then having no one to assist people with our very complex and regulatory systems is not true justice. And their increasingly active engagement in securing more pro bono resources, more funding, new ways of delivering services to low-income clients is to me incredibly inspiring. Someone mentioned to me last night about their job as a pro bono counsel at a law firm that they felt like Sisyphus, rolling a rock up a hill only to watch it roll back down again, and then pushing it again and having it roll back. And I think that's, in many ways, in terms of the state of pro bono, a very apt metaphor for the whole area. Except every year the rock seems to get bigger, and the hill is starting to look a lot like Mount Everest. So the question is perhaps not where we are, but where we should be going. This is a time for the legal profession of extraordinary and great changes and uncertainty. Every institution, the law firms, legal departments, the courts, law schools, every institution that is part of our profession is undergoing stresses and changes that we've never seen before, to a level we've never seen before. And every practice setting, very notably large firms, is changing. So change and flux is the new normal. We don't have a new culture. We have flux and uncertainty. And I would say, for those of you who were at the program last year and heard Dr. Larry Richards talk about the lawyer personality, lawyers do not like uncertainty. It makes us very uncomfortable. And we're not that crazy about change either. So this is a challenging time. But I want to use a quote from Peter Drucker in terms of what we should be doing as we live in these very uncertain times, and how we can, and I know this is a cliche, but turn challenges into opportunities. What Peter Drucker said was that the greatest danger in times of turbulence is not the turbulence. It is to act with yesterday's logic. And so as everything changes around us, we have to change as well in terms of who we are as pro bono supporters and what we do. So I have two major thoughts that I would throw out to you about what particularly needs to change. The first one is we cannot do it alone. Even the most active, engaged, creative law firm doesn't have the resources to solve the problems of this unequal, unfair, and often inaccessible legal system. Even the most gifted of public interest experts cannot change some of these persistent problems that result in increased, not just more poor people, but increased legal problems and issues and more regulation of poor people and people who are otherwise disadvantaged in terms of access to justice. So maybe what we need in terms of rolling that rock up that hill is that Sisyphus needs friends. He needs a network. He needs somebody who's really strong and can push. He needs more people to help push. He needs somebody who is really creative to develop a block and tackle or a lever. He needs somebody maybe to, figure out an alternative trail up that hill. And we need that. We need people from different settings with different expertise, different perspectives, and we really need to come together in how we do things. So what does that mean? For people in your own institutions, it is important to have pro bono leaders, but the most important role of pro bono leadership in our institutions is to create, invite, and encourage broader ownership, broader engagement, broader sense of urgency about pro bono. It can't be a one-person show. It can't be just the usual suspects. So in law firms, we've seen a very laudable trend to professionalize pro bono management. But that cannot mean that pro bono is not the province of a few. And it cannot mean that others are simply bystanders or just taking pro bono matters. We really need to have broader expertise, broader engagement, and more shared control of the program. In legal departments, for example, it means that the legal pro bono program shouldn't be. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm getting a time signal. I'll wrap up very quickly. In legal department, I guess I lied about being briefer than Barack Obama. Okay. In legal departments, it means that the pro bono program shouldn't be isolated from other initiatives in the company, like corporate social responsibility, skills-based volunteering, community outreach, and the like. And it also means that we need to be welcoming and respectful of newer players in the community. So I go back such a long way that I remember that when law firms first became involved in pro bono and were becoming more proactive in their work, there was a great deal of skepticism among the legal services and public interest community. They can't do it. They don't really care about poor people. They don't know what they're doing. They're arrogant. We've overcome that. And then, or for the most part, I hope we've overcome that. Then when legal departments came in, what we heard from people in law firms was, they can't do this, they don't really care, they're arrogant. And hopefully we're well on our way to overcoming that. Now, most recently, when we talk about the role of the judiciary and the fact that judges are becoming hands-on, more engaged in pro bono, we hear from people they have a different agenda. They're going to be too controlling. We'll lose the ability to do priorities. We'll take on cases we don't want to take. In the global arena, those of us from the U.S., I think, need to understand that we are not all that. So 10 years ago, when I first went to Australia, I was astonished, and it's embarrassing to say this, at the creativity, the breadth, the pro bono culture in that country. And more recently, I was in South Korea. And there's a pro bono movement in South Korea that's doing some very interesting, notable, exciting things that we should learn about. So we need to understand that these new players coming in are our colleagues, they're our teachers. Because even though they're new to this, they're bringing perspectives on how we can do pro bono differently and better. And we have to welcome them in and share this amazing work that we are lucky enough to undertake. Okay, I'm going to move quickly. So the second thing is, or the other part of We Are Not Alone, is the importance of collaboration. Not even just partnerships, but true collaborations, working with everyone and anyone, the courts, municipalities, other professions, social work organizations, libraries. I don't care who it is. Anybody who has some resources, capacity, perspective, knowledge, ideas to bring to the table. Because that's the only way, really, that we're going to be able to solve the underlying problem that is driving this mass of legal need. We need to not just address the symptoms, we need to create a cure. And working together in these larger collaborations, I think we can absolutely do that. So we cannot do it alone. The second thing I would say, in terms of looking ahead, it's not just more pro bono, but smarter pro bono. People are doing amazing work out there. One of the things I love about this conference is that in about 10 minutes of just sitting in a session, you hear, it seems like 20 really exciting ideas and approaches that could be replicated, could be adapted. But we also know that, and I hate to say this, but I really truly believe this, that the overall legal aid system of which pro bono is a part is atomized, very difficult to access or understand. It has great inefficiencies, and there are turf issues, there is unnecessary duplication. We need to make that system work better. We need to figure out how to take cases that come on over and over and over again, eviction defense, domestic violence, and the like. And I know law firms hate this word, but we need to commoditize the way we handle that in a way that doesn't in any way create disservice for the clients, but that makes us better at doing pro bono, creates better outcomes, and helps clients. We really, and I will just say this briefly because I know people are sick of hearing me say about it, we have to look, okay, I'm fine. And I'm not going to stop. We have to look, I'm close though. We have to look, we have an obligation to our clients and to the justice system as a whole to take long, hard, objective looks at what we're doing and how we're doing it. We need metrics, measurement, evaluation, and improvement. We need to be humble about that. We need to be aggressive about that. We need not to worry if we get bad news. No one's perfect. But we need to understand what's working and what's not. And we need to do that most of all, really, for the clients who rely on us. 50 years ago, in this city, Dr. Martin Luther King gave a speech that launched the civil rights movement. And he said, as part of that speech, we cannot walk alone, and we cannot work alone. And as we work, we must march together, and we must march ahead. We haven't realized all of Dr. King's dream, but we have made great progress toward it. Like Dr. King, all of you are here today and doing what you do back in your institutions because you are dreamers. And it's why you're leaders of the pro bono movement. So what I would say is we can make the dream of equal justice a reality, and hopefully it won't take 50 years, but we can't do it alone. Thank you.